ਅੱਜ ਵਿਕਾਸ ਜੀ ਕਾਮਰੇਡਸ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿਸ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਚੰਗੀ
ਜੀ।
ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਮਰੇਡ ਅਕਸ਼ੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ
ਜੀ ਜੀ ਜੀ
ਅੱਜ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਮਸਕਾਰ ਜੀ, ਡਾਕਟਰ ਧਰਮ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੰਧੂ ਜੀ ਆ ਗਏ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸੰਧੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸੀਪਲ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਵਿਕਾਸਦੀਪ ਫੇਰ ਜੀ।
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਪੈਣੀ ਹੈ। ਰੋਹਿਤ ਜੀ ਵੀ ਆ ਗਏ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਰੋਹਿਤ ਨੂੰ ਕੋ ਹੋਸਟ ਬਣਾ ਦਿਓ ਸਰ।
ਬਣਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਜੀ, ਇੱਕ ਮਿੰਟ ਲੱਭਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ।
ਉੱਥੇ ਟਾਈਪ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਸਰ, ਫਾਈਂਡ ਅ ਪਾਰਟਿਸਿਪੈਂਟ ਨਾ।
ਜੀ ਜੀ, ਅੱਜ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਅਕਸ਼ੇ ਨਾਲ ਚੰਗੀ ਬਹਿਸ ਹੋ ਗਈ
ਜੀ। ਸੰਧੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਬਣਾ ਦਿਓ ਸਰ ਕੋ ਹੋਸਟ।
ਹਾਂ, ਬਣਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਜੀ
ਜੀ।
रोहित सेवा बन गए। चलो आज जगदीश खत्री जी भी आ गए जी इलाहाबाद तो। सर अभी इलाहाबाद की बात कर रहे थे।
जी जी
मैं भाई की चाय पड़ी है।
ओह वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड।
गुड इवनिंग सर।
गुड इवनिंग जी, गुड इवनिंग।
हेलो रोहित सर।
गुड इवनिंग डॉक्टर जी, डॉक्टर विकास जी।
हाँ जी
नमस्कार सर। नमस्कार सर।
मैं सब नु म्यूट कीता, अपने आप नु अनम्यूट कर लो। अनम्यूट ओ
एक डॉक्टर सुनिए बार बार आता रहता है जिसा
की चीज
एडमिट करने वास्ते।
सर वो ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਸਟ ਬਣਾਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ।
अच्छा ਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਵੈਸੇ ओपन कर दिए तो प्रॉब्लम है कोई
नहीं? ओपन कर दी फिर आवाज़ां बहुत आਣਗੀਆਂ जी।
अच्छा
हाँ जी, हाँ, एक सेकंड सर।
हेलो रोहित सर।
हाँ जी सर,
क्या हाल है सर?
बस वधिया सर।
सर सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਿਊਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
जी
ਕਿ
म्यूट ऑल ही
सर एक बारी म्यूट ऑल कर दिए जी।
हाँ जी,
करता है सर ने।
मैं करता सी, फिर दोबारा कर देने हैं। बख्शी साहब आ गए जी, मैं इन्हों बना दा। आए सी दोबारा।
बख्शी सर है सर,
है उन्होंने
हाँ
केड़े नाम तो नहीं?
एक के बख्शी नाम तो ही है सर। गुड इवनिंग सर।
आ गया।
Good afternoon. Good evening now.
Good evening sir. Good evening जी, good evening. So we'll be starting exactly at 6 sir.
रोहित सर ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਐਡਮਿਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ। I'll be conducting the proceedings today रोहित सर।
हाँ जी सर, कोई नॉट इशू सर।
संजय भी है, संजय ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ। संजय are you there?
हाँ जी सर मैं कर रहा नाल।
Okay. So Dr. Ajay will be joining around 7. So in the meantime we will start. Welcome Dr. Bakshi.
जी,
वेलकम टू यू सर।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
मैं ऑलमोस्ट आपको रोज ही सुनता रहता हूँ, कहीं ना कहीं आपका लेक्चर होता रहता है एंड आई कैप्चर यू आइदर ऑन यूट्यूब और समवेयर एल्स।
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है।
Yes, Dr. Vikas, it is
Yes,
6 now.
Sir, I think a few of the participants, Dr. Tejendra Sharma, Mr. Kriti
will join very soon. Dr. Tejinder से मैं बात करता हूँ. आप in the meantime, I think we have the first two speakers are there. Dr. Akhilesh Mishra ji and Bakshi ji.
Right, sir.
है ना? तो
we can start with the proceedings.
Yes, क्योंकि time भी लगेगा ना.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Right, sir. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the day 2 of 3-day National Conclave on National Education Policy 2020. We had a very fruitful discussion and like a great day yesterday. Like we had great speakers yesterday. We had Dr. S.P. Bansal, Vice Chancellor, Himachal Pradesh Technical University. Then as keynote address, we had Dr. Raj Kumar Singh Ji Gautam. Then we had yesterday like very powerful speakers, Dr. Sanjeev Sharma, Director DAV Management Institute Faridabad. Then Dr. Kulbhushan Chandel Ji, Dean Academic Affairs, Himachal Pradesh Technical University. Then Dr. Manvinder Singh Pava from Manipal University. Then Dr. Ajay Sharma, Principal, Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce. So like we had very useful discussion, and we have been able to churn out some points from the policy which could give a good future direction. Now we are in the day 2, and into we have our most honorable, respected Dr. A.K. Bakshi Ji, Vice Chancellor, PDM University. Welcome to you, sir, on the second day. So, Honorable Dr. A.K. Bakshi Ji, our speakers for the day, Dr. Akhilesh Mishra Ji, Dr. Tejinder Sharma, he'll be joining us shortly. Then Mr. Rikriti Serai, he'll be joining us shortly. Principal Dr. Taram Singh Ji Sandhu, Satish Chandra Tavan College, Ludhiana. Then Dr. Ashmi Bhalla Ji, President, Punjab Commerce and Management Association. On behalf of Punjab Commerce and Management Association and our co-partners, Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Satish Chandra Dhawan College of Government College, Ludhiana, I welcome you to this forum, sir. Before I formally start with the proceedings, like I asked Dr. Before I request Dr. Ashwini Bhallaji, I would like to make a few remarks on this education policy, what I have been going through in last few days. See, like what I have been identifying, studying, or whatever I could gather from various newspaper discussions or media discussions. So one of the most important thing, like what I felt is like policy documents are not binding on any government, but they do indicate what the government is willing to do, or the thinking of doing what they'll be doing. So there are two important issues which I would like to bring to the focus of the panel, like in today's discussion, because we had a lot of discussion regarding what this policy contains. But I had sir, two observations, like if today the panelists could make some observations or can give their viewpoint. First is like, as we have taken a goal that the 6% of the GDP will be spending on education. So like it's a huge financial amount, and it looks very interesting, especially during the situation when we are in a pandemic situation, and we are facing a tough financial time. So that 6%, taking out that budget from the GDP will be a greater challenge for the economy. And second thing, like how that, what would the spread of that 6% GDP, like what would be the contribution of states, what would be the contribution of center. So we need to deliberate on that. Then the second issue, which I feel is because the most important issue is the quality of learning. So and there are two issues in quality of learning. One is the absolute quality of learning, and second, the gap which is widening between the government school students and those who are going to the private schools. So I think let's address some of these issues, like how this policy is going to help. And I'm sure this policy has challenged these fundamental issues to cope up with them. So let's try to have some churning on these issues today. So not spending much of time on these initial issues, I again welcome our chief guest of the day and the inaugural speaker, Dr. A.K. Bakshi Ji, and other speakers of the day to this national conclave. Now I request our President Ashwini Bhallaji to make opening remarks so that then I can hand over the the dais to our chief guest of the day. Over to Dr. Ashwini Bhallaji.
Thank you, Dr. Vikas. Thank you very much. So today my total day was regarding the discussion on national education policy. So today I was just deliberating from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the portal of Government College Sector 11 and Sector 46, Chandigarh, to deliberate on this issue. And what I observe that in India, whatever the policies are made, they are basically divided into two segments. One is left side and second is right side. And most of the policies are not properly implemented because of the unanimity on the various issues. And in this part also, in national education policy, the left part is crying very much, and they are criticizing this policy. On the right side, we have the people who are welcoming this policy. So I think proper discussion on this policy should be held. And that's why Punjab Commerce and Management Association decided that on 3 days, we'll be deliberating on this issue. And yesterday we started discussion with some speakers, and they very well discussed the threadbare aspects of this policy. And today also we have great speakers, Dr. A.K. Bakshi, who is the Vice Chancellor of PDM University, Bahadurgarh. And secondly, my learned friend, Dr. Akhilesh Mishra from Banaras Hindu University, so which is a temple of great learning in India, and we always go our head towards the Banaras Hindu University. Dr. Tajinder Sharma, who is head of the Commerce Department in Kurukshetra University, where Lord Krishna gave a sandesh of Gita. And we have the yoga expert and yoga guru, Dr. Dharam Singh Sandhu, principal of SCD Government College, Ludhiana. Shri Rikrit Rai, who is the chairman of Satluj School, he has just joined us. Welcome to you, sir. And Dr. Ajay Sharma, principal of Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management Association. Dr. Sanjeev Sharma, Director, DAV Institute of Management, has also joined us, and he is a core member of our team and always inspiring us to do these kind of things. So welcome to you, sir. So I hope today's discussion will also add something positively to the implementation of this policy. This policy is not going to be implemented overnight. I think the period of full implementation will be from the 2030 to 2040. So now we have to prepare ourselves and gear ourselves. So this has become a point of criticism also. One of the speakers in the last seminar said that it means that it will take 20 years to get the result of this policy. So therefore, this policy should not be implemented. We need overnight result. But my humble submission is, we got 34 years to get this policy, and we want that this policy should give the results overnight. This is not justification, and this is not right for any policy to be implemented. So, and to comment on this. So today, we are going to discuss in threadbare by all the speakers. So in beginning, I request Dr. Dharam Singh Sandhu ji to give his opening remarks, who is our co-partner of this program. SCD Government College Ludhiana and Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management are the joint partners of Punjab Commerce and Management Association to implement this policy or to discuss this policy and deliberate on these issues. Dr. Dharam Singh Sandhu. After that, over to Vikas ji.
SCD Government College Ludhiana and his family welcome our, we can say, the learners, scholars, speakers, those who have, we can join on this platform. With this, we can say that with the opening remarks, I just want to say that the Indian government replaced a 34 years old national policy on education framed in 1986 with the new education policy of 2020. ये जो कल भी हम इसी के ऊपर चर्चा कर रहे थे कि ये जो पॉलिसी है ना, इसको बनाने में बड़ा रिगरस मंथन हुआ है इसके ऊपर। 5 साल में जाके हर लोगों से, हर व्यक्ति से जहां तक हो सके कि 33 जो मेन पॉइंट्स है उसके ऊपर इनवाइट किए गए और 26 लाख लोगों ने अपने जो सजेशंस हैं इसमें दिए। एक इसमें बड़ी चीज थी कि जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है वो बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट, जैसे डॉक्टर अश्विनी भल्ला ने अभी कहा कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है और वो करना है किसने, वो हम सब ने करना है। दैट इज व्हाई वी आर डिस्कसिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स। फ्रेगमेंटेड टू इंटीग्रेटेड, ये इसमें एक मेन पॉइंट है। और दूसरा, रिसर्च जो इंटेंसिव यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं, टीचिंग इंटेंसिव यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं एंड ऑटोनमस जो कॉलेज हैं, ये 3 मेन इसमें एस्पेक्ट हैं। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बिगेस्ट हाइलाइट्स जो अगर मैं कहूं एनईपी के हैं वो 2020 के, कि ये सिंगल रेगुलेटर ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशंस। Discontinuations of MPhil programs and common entrance exams for the universities. Schooling starts at the age of 3 years now. The new education policy expands age group 6 to 14 of the mandatory schooling to 3 to 18 years of the schooling. ये बहुत बड़ा highlights है इसका। NEP introduced hitherto uncovered 3 years of the preschooling age group of 3 to 6 years under the school curriculum. New system will have 12 years of schooling with 3 years of preschooling, with an emphasis on the early childhood care and education, ECCE. The 10+2 structure of school curriculum is to replaced by 5+3+3+4 curricular structure corresponding to ages 3 to 8, 8 to 11, 11 to 14 and 14 to 18 years respectively. और सबसे अच्छी चीज इसमें थी कि मदर टंग एज ए मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन, ये इसमें खास एक हाईलाइट्स है इस पॉलिसी का। और नो यूजीसी, AICTE, NCTE. Higher Education Commission of India will be set up as a single overarching umbrella body of the entire education, excluding medical and legal education. ये इसके अंदर चीज है। Government will phase out the affiliation of the colleges in 15 years, and stage-wise mechanism is to be established by granting graded autonomy to the colleges. Science, arts, commerce, sub we can say the blurred. Or 4-year undergraduate program returns and no more dropouts. ये सबसे खूबी है इस पॉलिसी की कि कोई भी ड्रॉप आउट नहीं होगा। Under this new education policy, undergraduate degree will be of either 3 or 4 years duration with multiple exit options. Within this period, college will be mandatory to give certificate after completing 1 year in discipline or field including vocational and professional areas, a diploma after 2 years of the study, or bachelor of degree after 3 years program. Government will also establish an academic bank of credit for digitally storing academic credits. ये बड़ी खूबसूरत चीज है इस पॉलिसी की, earned from the different HEIs, so that these can be transferred and counted towards final degree earned. Aim जो है to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education including vocational education from the 26.3% to 50% by 2035, यानी डबल जो है एनरोलमेंट रेशियो का जो टारगेट लेके वो हम सब चलेंगे और ये पॉलिसी यही कहती है। द पॉलिसी एम एट मेकिंग इंडिया ए ग्लोबल नॉलेज सुपर पावर. One of the stated aim of the policy is to instill a deep-rooted pride is being Indian, not only a thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds, as well as to develop knowledge, skills, values, dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living and global well-being. आत्मनिर्भरता का जो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी कहा ना कि आत्मनिर्भरता की जो बात की जाएगी, ये पॉलिसी उसमें एक बड़ा मील वी कैन से बिग स्टोन होगा इसके अंदर. The policy also aim at light up tight regulation by a single regulator of the higher education as well as increased access, equity and inclusions. NEP lays down that 2040 all higher education institutions shall aim to become multidisciplinary institutions, each of which will aim to have 3,000 or more students. There shall be 2030 be at least one large multidisciplinary institution in or near every district. भी ऐसा होना चाहिए. The aim will be to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, from 23% to 50% by 2035. Single stream higher education institution will be phased out over the time, and all move towards become multidisciplinary. The system of affiliated colleges will be gradually phased out in 15 years. University mean a multidisciplinary institution that offers undergraduate and graduate programs with high quality teaching, research and community engagements. The definition will allow a spectrum of institutions ranging from those that place equal emphasis on teaching and research. Even engineering institutions such as IITs will move towards more holistic and multidisciplinary education with more arts and humanities. Students of arts and humanities will aim to learn more science. Departments in languages, literature, music, philosophy, Indology, art, dance, theater, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied science, sociology, economics, sports, translation and interpretation will be established and strengthened at all HEIs. The 4-year program may also lead to degree with research if the student completes a rigorous research project. Model public universities of the holistic and multidisciplinary education at par with IITs, IIMs called MERU, yani multidisciplinary education and research universities will be set up. India will be promoted as global study destination providing premium education at affordable cost. An international students office at each university hosting foreign student will be set up. ये भी बड़ी अच्छी चीज है इस पॉलिसी की कि हर एक यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर इस तरह से एक सेंटर जो है वो एस्टेब्लिश किया जाएगा. In the last, I would like to say that the policy also speaks of the creating a national research foundation. The policy also mentioned the creation of the Higher Education Commission of the India. So in these words, I once again welcome our, we can say, the honorable speakers, and also thanks to the PCMA, those who are doing, we can say, doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Dharam Singh Sandhuji, for your opening remarks and highlighting the policy document. Now, without much of wait, I would like to invite our chief guest and the speaker of the day, Dr. A.K. Bakshi ji. Dr. Sahab, we are all very excited and keen to listen your powerful thoughts. Like we had the opportunity to listen you earlier also, and we have always been waiting for your powerful thoughts. For me, it will not be a justice if I start introducing Professor Bakshi. Professor Bakshi is a great personality, and it doesn't need any introduction. Rather, I would like to use that time for the thought-provoking messages from Dr. A.K. Bakshi. So without wasting much of time, now I would request Dr. A.K. Bakshi, Vice Chancellor, PTM University, to address the audience, please. Over to Dr. Bakshi, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vikas. It's indeed a great pleasure and a privilege to have got this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on National Education Policy 2020 at this conclave cum conference being organized by Punjab Commerce and Management Association in collaboration with SCD Government College Ludhiana and Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management Ludhiana. I would like to thank Dr. Ashwini Bhalla for his kind invitation to me to be a part of this event. And I also extend my warm greetings to all the participants from across the country who are joining us in this conclave. Now, to speak something on national education policy in a very short time is not a very easy job. But from my experience as a teacher in university, college education, I have been associated with school education as the author of various NCERT books, then as an administrator, not only in India, but abroad, and having worked in many countries, I have closely seen how the quality of education is maintained in some of these places. So I would like to share some of my thoughts from the perspective of this national education policy. So I have prepared a small presentation and I would like to share my screen, please. Is my screen visible and am I audible, please?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So the title of my talk is National Education Policy 2020 and Overview. You know, few things we have to keep it in mind from the very beginning, and that is that national education policy is a visionary document, is a vision. Vision means what government sees the education should be in future. It aims at making India a global knowledge superpower. I think it's a very big task which we are aiming at, but it's really worth pursuing. And whatsoever is being said in this vision document, it needs to be remembered that the pillars of education are quality, access, equity, accountability, and affordability. So this policy is to be seen from these 5 perspectives. All of them are very, very important for a country like India. One thing more which one needs to remember is that roadmap is yet to be prepared as to how this policy will be implemented. It is just a vision. And please remember, vision will be followed by mission, then strategies will be developed, then goals, and ultimately objectives. So it has to go through all these stages. So this is something which we need to keep it in mind. And then please remember also that implementation of such a big policy is going to be in a very phased manner. And as per the government, non-fiscal reforms will be implemented first, followed by fiscal reforms. In many cases, even pilot projects may be run. And not only that, in certain very sensitive issues, like opening of the campuses of the foreign universities in India, even parliamentary approval will also be sought on a bill to be prepared by now called Ministry of Education. So these all aspects have to be kept in mind while looking at this policy. I'm coming to the second point, why we are having this education policy after 34 years. This could be a question. Because this is the first education policy of the 21st century and a third major revamp in the framework of education since independence. And as it was told just now, the two earlier education policies came in 1968 and 1986. You know, one thing we need to keep it in mind that it takes time to know the full impact of any education policy. Education policy starts from very basic, nursery, goes up to higher level. Even if a child is admitted in nursery in this academic year, to feel the full impact will take at least minimum 20 years or 25 years. Therefore, it's not surprising that this policy is now coming after 34 years. We should not forget that when the old policy was announced, that means the policy of 1986, a lot of work happened. There were also many laudable, goals there. But it took time to feel whether those have been achieved or not. And that is the reason why this policy has come after a gap of 34 years. Let me tell you at the very beginning that for a country like India, national education needs to be treated at par with national security. Both of them should be given the same importance. Because, both of them are very important for a country like India. Because, the purpose of education is to empower the students through knowledge, skills, values, etc. for their all-round development. We are building the future of the country. Students may be 20% of our population, but then they are 100% of our future. This is something which we should not forget. Therefore, one should try to ensure that there are no loopholes in this policy. Everything is fully taken care of. So this is my another concern and perspective. In this education policy, if you look at, why is this? In this policy, I don't know why is this. The focus of education policy is, if you read it very minutely, to shift to creative thinking, problem-solving skills, digital literacy, inquiry-based learning, discussion-based learning, creativity, and innovation. I think this is a great thing if we can shift the focus of our education from rote learning to all these skills, which can make a big difference for any country. You know, in a country like India, I personally feel there is a serious crisis of creativity in Indian education system. If India is in dearth of anything, it is the dearth of creative minds. No Indian scientist working in India has been able to get Nobel Prize after 1930. 90 years have passed. There have been some Nobel Prize winners in science, but then they were all non-resident Indians. You know, I don't mean to say that Nobel Prize is something very big, but for a country with a population of 1.4 billion, if we are not able to produce one Nobel laureate, ultimately the question is, what's wrong with our education system? It needs to focus on innovation and creativity. You know, I have been teaching for so long, but most of the time what we teach is the contributions of foreign people. Why not much of Indians? And please remember, Nobel Prize is not a lifetime achievement award. The major prerequisite for this is open-mindedness and creativity, enormous amounts of creativity. So that is not nurtured in our students. Therefore, if there is a shift to that, I think it's certainly a welcome step. Not much of Indians. Please remember that without creativity, there cannot be any progress in the country, and we would be forever repeating the same pattern. So this is something very important. And creativity is also not something like an injection which you give to someone. You have to create an environment for curiosity and a way to encourage the people and get the best out of it. Because it is said, curiosity is the seed of creativity. Another concern which seems to me, I will be coming to other points later on, that my concern is about existing teachers in higher education and school education. You know, we are not going to shunt them out. They will remain in the system for a long time. And till now, they have been following National Education Policy 1986. And suddenly now, new education policy have come. So they are in a buffer zone. Earlier, they were following the objectives of National Education Policy 1986. Now they are supposed to follow those of 2020. So, and many of them, they will remain in the system for another 20 years. Maybe 30 years or even more, not only in higher education, but also in school education. So, and you know, many of them are the product of traditional system, which has been rote learning and scoring high marks. So suddenly, if we expect that they will change overnight and start producing students who are creative, I think one needs to think over that. So therefore, there needs to be a focus, a program on professional development of the teachers in the system so that they are prepared for that. They are prepared for the objectives of National Education Policy 2020. You know, if you look at the current education scenario, just look at this. There are at present, as you can see here, about 1.4 million teachers in higher education and about 3.5 million teachers in school education. They are all there. So I think, in my opinion, policy is silent about their development, how they will implement this, how they will start making their students creative suddenly. So this is a big challenge. And therefore, we need to focus on the professional development and also in the change of their mindset. So then, because, they have a very important role to play in achieving the objectives of NEP 2020. One thing which is very good is that in this policy, they say that the curriculum would be very light now. It's excellent. I have always said that heavy syllabi is a big, stumbling block in the growth of the thinking power of the students. And now light syllabi and only core essentials of each discipline will be included. I think this is a very positive development, but we should not forget that knowledge is growing very, very fast. The doubling time of the growth of knowledge has shrunk considerably. At one stage, it used to be 150 years, then it became 100, then 50 years, and at present, human knowledge is doubling in about 73 days. When knowledge is growing so fast, therefore syllabi should be light, but then they should be modern also. They should not be outdated, because ultimately these students have to become the researchers. We should remember that what we all know is a drop and what we do not know is an ocean in terms of the knowledge. Then, this policy talks about assessment. Again, it's very important because in my opinion, assessment drives learning. The way you start assessing your students will start learning in that way. And, in many countries, if you recall, they have improved the quality of education by changing the system of assessment, changing the question pattern. This is a good way to enhance the quality of education in the country. If you will start giving, rote learning questions, students will do rote learning. If you start giving some out-of-box thinking question, they will be forced to do that. Initially, there will be a reluctance, but then slowly they will pick up. So teachers also need to be trained in assessment if we have to improve the quality of education. That is the point which I want to say. Assessment process needs to be made more scientific to encourage multiple skills of the students. It's very good, and everybody said that we are going to increase gross enrollment ratio to 50% by 2035. At present, student enrollment is 3.74 crores. So it means we will have to create additional 3.5 crore seats in next 15 days. It's not going to be that easy. If you look at this table, in the year 2001 or 2, our gross enrollment ratio was just 8.1%. In 7-8, it became 13.1. Last 18-19, it was 26.3. And suddenly making it 50% is going to be a big initiative. We cannot keep on opening more universities. We already have almost 1,000 universities. Getting a faculty is difficult, getting infrastructure is difficult, and it all costs money. So only way out in future is going to be, if we have to achieve this, that is only by online education and open and distance learning. I was also Vice Chancellor of UP Rajrishi Tandon Open University. We could have a lot of students enroll. But now with online education, this can be achieved. But then online quality of education has to be improved, because in our race for gross enrollment ratio, we should not compromise with the quality of education. And just as for school education, we are going to make it 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030. As a matter of fact, this is one of the sustainability goals of the United Nations, that by 2030, we should have 100% literacy and other lifelong learning opportunities, etc. These are the goals. So it's in sync with that. Then they say that national common test will be announced. First question is, will this be the only way to get admission to the universities? We will have to see that. Some universities may say that our autonomy is being attacked. So because education is in the concurrent list, both states can take their own decision. So maybe to start with, they can start with the central universities, which directly come under central government. And then slowly state universities can also, accept it and be a part of that. But then if it is done in the state university, they may ask for their own language. And so the test will have to be in that language. So national common test is a good, but then, there are certain questions also. Will this should be the only route? Earlier also, all IITs and state engineering colleges, they used to have the separate entrance test. Then joint entrance examination came under that umbrella. So something like that can happen. But it was, one of the feeling is that it will stop coaching. May not, because students will then start going for coaching for preparation for this national common test, national aptitude test. So there are both pros and cons. One has to understand that. Then, it talks about undergraduate education with multiple exit and options and academic bank. This has been just told. This looks to be good. It offers flexibility to the students. I passed 12th. I could not enter into IIT. I entered into some BSc course. After 1 year, again, I try IIT, and if I qualify, I can leave with a certificate. And so my 1 year is not wasted. That looks good. But from practical difficulties, from setting up curriculum, how it will be done. If suppose in a college, students are sitting in a class, some of them are with a certificate option, some of them are with a diploma, some with a degree, some with research. How will you set up the curriculum? It's a question how it is to be done. So these are going to be some practical difficulties. Or is it going to be that certificate will be offered only in one institute or diploma in some other institution? All those things are still not clear. And then, MPhil will be stopped. That's okay, perfectly all right. And then PhD, etc. And then once you do undergraduation with research degree, your MA or MSc will be with 1 year. So that is perfectly all right. Academic bank of credits is also okay. But then, whether it is between the universities, then MOUs will have to be signed. If it is with some state university, with some central university, again, because education being the curriculum, you will have to sign a MOU in order to, it's not automatically, one should keep it in mind that education is a concurrent list. So, and then they say that multidisciplinary institutions and research universities, etc., they will be, multidisciplinary institutions is a good idea. There is no doubt. But then there is a viewpoint that, each, having a diversity of institution is also a strength. Someone specializing in commerce, someone specializing in management. So that specialty has its own strength. Because, a healthy education system should have a diversity of institutions, having different pedagogical, innovations, having their own strengths, their own, like that. So making everyone multidisciplinary, how it will work, that is only the time will tell. They talk about National Research Foundation. It's okay. Now National Research Foundation will be an apex body. It will fund the projects. including social sciences will also come in that. And, you know, it will build a culture. But please remember, projects or infrastructure only enable you. Research is done in the minds. If we are not creative, even if you have crores and crores of instruments, no research is possible. We need to focus on building creative minds, and that can come only through quality of education. These things are important. I don't say that they are not important, but not as important as, you know, creativity. Then Higher Education Commission of India, it was just being mentioned. There will be set up a single umbrella body which will exclude medical and legal education. And, you know, one more big thing which I liked was that all the public and the private higher education institutions will be governed by the same set of norms. This is something very good, because ultimately everyone is imparting education, and the goal of education is the same. So norms should also be the same. So this is something very laudable. And then, you know, Higher Education Council will have 4 independent verticals. This is already said. So I think this is perfectly all right. But only thing which sometimes I was thinking was that UGC and AICT have been scrapped. AICT was earlier dealing only with technical education. And, you know, technical education is something very specialized education. So AICT was also created under some national education policy. And it is said that technical education runs the economy of a country. But now it has come under one umbrella, leaving aside medical and legal. That can be a little bit questioned. But let's see and watch how the things change. Then, you know, de-affiliation of the colleges, they are talking. It's okay, because, you know, sometimes, you know, I know that there are many universities. For example, Mumbai University has, if I'm not wrong, more than 200 colleges. And if one college is very poor, then it affects the reputation of Mumbai University. Oh, it is a college of Mumbai University. So slowly the affiliation of the colleges is to be phased out. I think it's a welcome step. But then, as it is mentioned, that first, you know, autonomous status will be given to top ranking colleges in NIRF. And other colleges which are below, they will be encouraged to come up higher in the ranking. And once they come to higher ranking, then they will be given autonomous status. So I think this is perfectly all right. But, you know, again, think affiliation was also started under some education policy. So we are slowly giving a second thought to this. But I personally feel this is a welcome step. And I think almost I'm coming to the end, that technology in education is being talked about in great details. You know, as a person who has been directly involved in developing technology in education in the country, you know, they are now going to set up National Educational Technology Forum, which is an autonomous body. And as you can see, that this will encourage the use of technology in education, not only in enhancing learning, but also in assessment, planning, and administration, in all of them. So it's a very laudable step that technology is going to play a very important role in the years to come. And please remember, technology in education is a journey, not a destination. It will keep on changing. So this is just that we are now entering the era of technology. We should not forget that. And still, we are not that advanced in technology in education. Perhaps education is the only sector which still sometimes debates about the usefulness of technology, whereas technology pervades all around us. It has changed our lives. look at the practices and the procedures of engineering, medicine, travel, tourism, banking, all have changed, but not much. Only because of this corona, something has happened now, but otherwise not. But now technology is going to come in a very, very big way, and I am very happy. But then, it is also not mentioned, but a time should come when from first year in university or college education, digital curriculum should be introduced, so that students don't learn the techniques or technologies after coming back. They should learn, it should be something like compulsory. Every college should have this technology part, some syllabus compulsory. There should be a studio in every college for recording, for lectures, for all that, developing e-learning, MOOCs, all that. And Prime Minister also other day mentioned virtual labs are going to come in a very big way. But it will take time. It's not that easy. I have been associated, we have developed maximum MOOCs in the country. I know how difficult it is. Many of our people are not good in writing skills. And while developing content, you need to have good ideas, and then you need to have good writing skills so that you can come down to the level of the student. So, but one thing is really good. There is a lot of focus on technology in education in this policy. This is the, virtual lab. Prime Minister also talked, this is how the virtual lab will operate. You have a real lab, then it is through an interface of internet, it is connected to the remote users. And through their, laptop, they can operate. That is how it works. And perhaps that India is now already going to enter an era of education 4.0, which is a total technology mediated education. We are, education 4.0 is as per the needs of the Industrial Revolution 4, which is coming in a very big way, where artificial intelligence, other technologies are going to play. But we still have to come up a lot. This was my article on education 4. Very recently it came for how it is going to change the coming generations. These are the future technologies, but still not many of us know how they work, how they function. And MOOCs and e-learning, which we are talking, they are still mainly a monologue, one size fits all delivery. These technologies will enable personalized learning in the years to come. So, entire phase of education is going to change. So it's really welcome. Expenditure on education, as people said, 6% of GDP, but 6% of GDP has been in the process since Kothari Commission, but it was not done. It should be done. And then 6% of GDP on education means it gets divided between school education, higher education, and vocational education. So how much you get ultimately? And without money, quality education will not come. You need infrastructure for that. Foreign universities, they are talking, this is a good, but one should think why a foreign university will come. They are not going to come for any philanthropic purpose. They will come here to make money. Then what type of courses will they do? Will they be suitable for our students who are coming out of school education? I remember I was executive director of Tertiary Education Commission Mauritius.
Dr. we have limited time now.
Just 1 minute.
Okay.
IIT could not open a campus in Mauritius because IIT Act and National Education Policy did not permit it. So foreign universities, so a bill has to be introduced. And I think this 5+3, this has already been explained. And then, there are many constitutional provisions also. Education is a concurrent, then other provisions, which I'm not able to talk right now. But most of the major issues I have talked. And, this point is important, that education policies by the central government provide a broad direction. And state governments are expected to follow it, but it's not mandatory. For instance, Tamil Nadu does not follow the 3-language formula prescribed by the first education policy in 1968. So it's not there. Anyway, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and
thank you.
The time was less, but I still shared some of my thoughts. And my crux of the whole talk is, if you really want to have quality, we will have to improve our teachers.
Yes.
They are the pivot of our education system. Without that, everything else will be on paper and nothing can be achieved. This is my feeling. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We have been always been waiting for your thought-provoking messages and thought-provoking ideas. I would say, like, you are the lighthouse of knowledge, and the way you articulate your thoughts, like, everybody gets mesmerized. Like, we hope, like, we wish, like, we intend that we keep listening you, but the paucity of time, like, the only constraint is time. So, like, otherwise, we don't we didn't want it to stop you, but the time constraint is there, so we have to work under some constraints.
I can understand.
Yeah, thank you so much.
While speaking, sometimes you lose track of time. You don't remember how much time.
No, sir.
It was mesmerizing, sir.
But,
mesmerizing,
yeah,
the whole concept.
Great, sir. Like, the way you discuss the pillars of education, the quality, access, equity, then accountability and affordability, then the various issues, like your analogy from drop to ocean, and these things, I think there are too many takeaways from you. Like, you have unfolded some new insights for a debate and discussion on the national education policy. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for sparing your valuable time. Now, not taking much of time, I'll request our next speaker, Dr. Akhilesh Mishra ji, professor from Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. I would request on sir to please make his viewpoint on the national education policy. Over to Dr. Akhilesh Mishra ji.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. It's a matter of education, though. Before saying anything, I want to just remember first our great educationist, our founder of my university, Banaras University, Bharat Ratna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviji Maharaj, who has given the great vision about education, and he has tried to impart knowledge through education in a very cheaper manner to our university, which is known as Kashi Hindu Vishwavidyalaya. It's a matter of, he has said, न तो हम काम्य राज्यम न स्वर्गम न पुनर्भवम काम्य दुख तप्ता नाम प्राणी नाति नाशनम। न तो मैं स्वर्ग की कामना करता हूँ, न मैं पुनर्जन्म की कामना करता हूँ, मैं बस एक ही कामना करता हूँ कि दुख से पीड़ित लोगों की मैं सेवा कर सकूँ। ऐसे विजनरी, ऐसे एजुकेशनिस्ट को कोटि कोटि नमन करते हुए, I welcome to all of you in this National Conclave Conference on National Education Policy 2020, being organized by Punjab Commerce and Management Association in collaboration with IQAC SCD Government College, Ludhiana, and Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management, Ludhiana. Our chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. A.K. Bakshi sir, just we have listened and he has summarized so many things in a very elaborated manner. Then our speaker, Dr. Tejendra Sharma sir, Professor Kurukshetra State President, PCMA also, Shri Rikrit Sarai, Director, Satyajit School, then Dr. Dharampal Singh, Principal, SCD Government College, and overall the hero, the great academician, Dr. Ashwini Valla sir, the President, PCMA also, and myself is Dr. Sir, correct the name. Myself is Dr. Akhil Mishra, not Akhil. Yes. Dr. Akhil Mishra.
We are so sorry for the mistake, sir.
Sir, okay, it's okay. Professor, Faculty of Commerce, Banaras Hindu University. Sir, I always respect my Honorable Prime Minister, our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, who is very innovative, very creative, and is trying to implement some fundamental changes in our system so that we can have some new kind of energy, some new kind of education in our country. I remember when I happened to be a student at that time, there was a great, good curious in me, why there is restriction to learn different subjects. If I am a science student, if a person is a candidate is a science student, he can learn anything. But if he's an arts student, he's a commerce student, he has a restriction to learn some other subjects. Now this, I think, new education policy has opened the scope for each and every student, whosoever is wishing to learn whatever. Now he can learn. Now he can study with the help of this new education policy to be launched by our present Prime Minister. Okay, it's a very creamy feature of this policy is it is giving freedom to all of us to study whatever we wish, which was not earlier, but not after the getting freedom. We were forced to study, not we were not free to study what we are willing to do. So I welcome this new national education policy. It is in the favor of students, and it talks about multidisciplinary approach. That is, if a student wants to switch from one education of knowledge to another knowledge of education, he can switch over and he can do something better after developing interest in that knowledge. Sir, I am audible?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I want some features of our national education policy, which our Bakshi sir has very nicely elaborated. But even though I want to say, I want to highlight some points. That is, existing 10+2 structure is now going to be changed, like 5+3+3+4. Whenever I had talked with our senior professors, they used to say we were having the education in which they studied in this manner, like 5+3+3+4.
Sir, please check your audio. We have missed your audio.
Sir, you're unmuted, please.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
I'm doing it. Now audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So now we have again the good system, 5+3+4 system. And when I was a student, I had given board examination at class 8 level. And after that, the board level starts from 10th or then 12th. Now we will have the board system in this manner when we will have the 5+3+3+4 system. Then 4 years for higher secondary. And the 3 disciplines are being removed. Arts, science, commerce, thus such nomenclatures are going to be removed. Now it means students are free to choose whatever they are willing to choose now. Then there is a good emphasis on imparting knowledge system, language, culture, and values, which we are losing nowadays. Value education is the need of the time nowadays, and that we are losing very fastly. So perhaps this national education policy will do something good for Indian knowledge system. We were known for the knowledge all over the world, and we are still known for our knowledge system, our intelligence that we may regain, that we may recover through degree or knowledge oriented education, rather degree oriented education. So it will do something, I think, good for culture, good for value inculcation in our student. And technology is the best mode to help to develop. Nowadays, we are having online webinars, online seminars, online conferences. This is only possible due to technological development. In this way, we are marching towards online education in this Corona era, which is the further need of the time. Then another good point is universal foundational literacy and numeracy in all primary schools. In the name of literacy, we were having only the knowledge to write our name or father's names or mother's name. But now I think literacy will be changed in the name of foundational literacy and numeracy at primary levels. Then there is another key feature, regulatory system of higher education to be distinct. Our education system, regulatory part will be distinct now, and it will be governed by only one system, that is Higher Education Commission of India. And it will be further bifurcated at regional level, at district level, state levels. but it will be governed by only one commission, that is Higher Education Commission. As we were knowing, University Education Commission, Public Service Education Commission, then Higher Education Commission. Now, such kind of discriminations will not be there. And in this continuance, UGC AICT will also be replaced by our Higher Education Commission. Let us to see whether we will be successful in this or not. Similarly, the professional councils, so many professional councils we are having, some councils will be exempted from this. Otherwise, all councils will be renamed now professional standard setting boards. If it is only the name changing or it will do something, it is to be seen in coming days. Then another important feature is universities to be named on the basis of quality of education, rather ownership. We are having universities in the name of so many personalities. Now that this ownership concept is going to be changed, and on the basis of quality, the names of the universities will be renamed. It may be a good landmark in coming days. Then there is further much emphasis on multidisciplinary education, as it is being said that IITs will also promote arts and humanities in their discipline. Dr. Bakshi was saying something about in regard to multidisciplinary approach, that it will not have concentration among the students. But so many times we feel ki if we had in this discipline, we would have done much better rather than current discipline. So the students will get the opportunity to switch over from one discipline to another discipline. Further, in our researches, sometimes we feel it should be multidisciplinary researches so that we can do something better in other disciplines also. That will give good scope to the students and they may opt good discipline according to their change of interests. The UG degree will be either 3 or 4 years. In present system, if dropouts are there, the whole career is lost. The whole opportunity is lost. Now, students will be given a kind of opportunity further. If they have 1 year course, they have completed only 1 year, they will be given certificate. If they have completed 2 years of education, at graduation level, they will be given diploma certificate. And if they have completed the complete course, then they will be given the bachelor's degree. In this manner, they will have some knowledge, they have some energy to utilize that knowledge in their career also, which was not possible in current education system. Further, the 4 years degree program will have one more option, that is degree with research also. If the student has followed any research process in this context, then he will have one more addendum in his degree, that he will have some kind of research experience also. Further, the NRF, National Research Foundation, will be set up with goal to enhance research activities, and it will be governed by independent rotational board of governors. The system is going to change. I think in the lacuna in our research process, so many researches are there, so many PhDs are being produced, but outcome is very poor, and there is a very poor contribution of these researches in the name of national economical development. It means, I think in this manner they want to have some quality parameters in research system, so that good researches, qualitative researches can be done in our country, and our economy, our society may be benefited with the help of such researches. Overall, the much emphasis which is being given in this national education policies, the flexibility to the students. The students should be given much flexibility to study whatever they are willing to study, so that they may have good career, they may opt for good career. The financial stance will also is also being assured. All students will be given a kind of financial stance, so that no student will be deprived of higher education. And after all, what striked in my mind too much, that is internationalization, that is globalization of education. We happen to be a global guru, we happen to be Vishwa Guru in our knowledge system, in our education system. The government says like this, it will convert our education system in such a manner that we can regain lost lost entity that was Vishwaguru. To become a Vishwaguru, much emphasis is going to be given on in globalization, so that global universities may have interaction in our country, and we can have the opportunity to have knowledge from foreign universities also, through student exchange program, through global research exchange programs, etc., etc. And further, yes, I have said that. In this manner, some points I try to mention here, and let us see what will happen in future, what kind of draft will come finally, and will it be accepted by the public, by the students, by the teaching community, or it's a matter of uh, great seriousness. And I believe in optimistic approach. So I am very optimistic. If this system will be changed anyhow, then I think is something good will take in our education system, which will be good contribution to our country's development. With these words, I want to thank all of you. Thank you, Balla sir, for giving me opportunity to say some words in this your national conclave conference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yes,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Akhil Mishra, sir. We are so sorry for the goof up which had happened in the name, but it was inadvertently. So,
Sure.
thank you so much for highlighting the positive aspects of the policy, and having your opinion from a very positive lens, the optimism you have, the kind of lens you have, where it has brought a motivation or encouragement among the different teaching community, that this policy will bring certainly some changes which will be good for the future. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for sparing your valuable time.
Thanks to you, sir.
Before I invite the next speaker, I'll request Dr. Ashwini Bhallaji, kindly please make Professor Tejinder Sharma ji co-host.
Okay, Tejinder ji.
Yeah, Dr. Tejinder Sharma ji is our next speaker. So, before I request Dr. Tejinder Sharma ji to speak or give his opinion on the national education policy, first of all, on behalf of Punjab Commerce and Management Association,
Dr. Vikas,
entire fraternity. Yes, sir. Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Vikas, Tejinder Sharma ji is not co-host; he is a host, because he is so close to us that everything we organize in PCMA or HCMA or HPCMA, we all are hosts. So it is the inspiration of Dr. Tejinder Sharma that we are all sitting here. Over to Dr. Tejinder ji.
Right.
Yes, Dr. Tejinder.
Good evening, Professor Bakshi sir, my wonderful friend Professor Ashwini Bhallaji, Vikas ji, and Mishra ji. Today, rather, I was looking for your phone number because I wanted to talk to you, and I was able to get it, but then we got held up in some other thing. And it's a real pleasant surprise for me, Mishra ji, that I am seeing you today virtually.
Sir.
So
I am also being pleasant feeling. I am seeing you also on the screen after a long time.
So thanks to technology, which has been not only the enabler of the transaction of teaching and learning, but now it's also the enabler of the unity and the closeness, and also so many other things which are happening around us. And indeed, PCMA, talking at any PCMA platform is like I'm in homecoming, because it's really very, very, nostalgic when we share anything about this, platform. And Bhallaji always chooses the very, very right and opportune, topics where he wants to discuss something. He initiates the discussion. And indeed, the 3-day convention on national education policy is indeed one of a very wonderful initiatives which he has taken. And I congratulate the entire PCMA family for the success of this. They have been able to bring so many wonderful people around us, and I have been listening to their views. It is indeed very, very enlightening. after having listened to Professor Bakshi sir and Mishra sir, I felt that if I run over the PowerPoint presentation, I would be repeating something which already has been talked about my esteemed speakers. So I would like to talk about something else. You know, we all talk of our very glorious past, of our very strong foundations of education. And when we were independent since then, we realized the importance of education. And since then, we have been looking at how we can make India great once again. And we know that the route for this goes only and only through education. So the first education policy, which came almost 65 years ago, that set up a roadmap wherein, many universities were set up. And then education came in the concurrent list, wherein the states as well as center, they were making the laws, they were setting up the institutions, and a lot of diversity of institutions emerged during last 75 years. Well, thereafter, many newer education policies came, but the repercussion of all this was that higher education came to be governed by more than 17 different regulatory bodies. We had UGC, which was started with a very noble aim. It was there even during the British time. It was started basically as a disbursing, agency. It had the clear-cut mandate of maintaining the quality of higher education in the country. Slowly, things started changing. And in addition to the financial role, it had the regulatory role. Then there were certain other, bodies. AICT came later on. Then after that, specialized bodies, one for the law, Bar Council of India, Pharmaceutical Council of India. So we had 17 different bodies which were regulating the higher education as well as other forms of education in the country. Another interesting feature was that, you see, the funding. We all think that we get the funding in terms of the budget that is allocated to the Ministry of Education. But it was not only the Ministry of Education which was funding higher education. In addition to Ministry of, in addition to the funding that was coming to the Ministry of Education, higher education as well as other education received funding from so many different bodies. There were almost 11 different bodies which were directly or indirectly funding the higher education scenario in the country. Now, each of the funding agencies had their own agenda, and each of the funding agencies had their own terms and conditions by which they were providing the funds and incentives to the, higher education. The things which we are talking about, sometimes we talk about unification, sometimes we talk about, differentiation in terms of allowing more autonomy. All these things have been debated since almost time immemorial. And we had so many different ideas. Professor Nurul Hasan, almost 60 years ago, said that we should have one Indian education service wherein all recruitment to the colleges and universities of the country should be made by one unified system. But then we had so many diverse pressure groups, power groups, vested interests, so many factors that intervened in this that this could never realize. Higher education has been treated like a guinea pig. Over the years, so many things have happened. Everybody wanted to implement their own thoughts, their own ideas, and everybody wanted to have a sense of achievement by making some or the other change into the higher education scenario. We had the concept of world-class universities. We had the concept of institutions such as Nalanda. We had the concept of sometimes, very, very specialized institutions. Then we started talking about building them into more generalized institutions. So it's been so much of diversity. It's been so much of diversity that we reached to a state of confusion. That where are we? Where are we? So you see, because of all these, the issue of unification was very well taken up in the present new education policy. National education policy has set up really very different goals, which were almost unimaginable in our present traditional mindset. But we know that things change over time. a new education policy has built in the flexibility, has infused the enthusiasm, given room for creativity, integrated technology, and above all, it's integrated the system. Now, you see, it's the objective which we all ultimately want to achieve. And when we listen at what is going to come out of it, it sounds like a dreams world. Indeed, if all this happens, we all will be in a very different type of the education system. We all will be studying and teaching in very different colleges and universities in which we all had our education. So the point is that, is it really achievable? Is it really feasible? Can we really reach there? For this purpose, I am tempted to refer back to the systems approach of management, which we all studied in our classrooms. Higher education, incidentally, is not just education. Higher education is governed by so many different, factors which influence. There are so many stakeholders of a university. There are so many people who really influence not only the academics, but also the working of the entire education system. So if we have to achieve these goals, we have to look at each of the subsystems separately. There are so many subsystems. Let us try to understand what these subsystems are. The first and the foremost important subsystem is that since higher education is governed by the polity, is governed by the political system, this factor is going to have a very, very important role at all points of time. If we really want the autonomy to come, if we really want the people who are entrusted upon with the responsibility of running the higher education institutions and higher education system make the rightful decisions within the interest of the academics, then probably we will have to set up a more harmonious understanding between the polity and the people who are into the higher education. And the basis of this understanding has to be the academic excellence and not something else. It's not to be agenda driven. It's not to be ideology driven. It's not to be anything else. It's got to be pure and pure commitment towards building excellence into education. So when we have the polity, when they will say that, yes, we are with you for building the excellence, we are going to give you the autonomy so that you can run your institutions and you can have a single-minded commitment for building world-class institutions, I think so our system has got the capability. Professor Bakshi expressed his lot of happiness on the homogeneity of the emerging rules and regulations for the private as well as the public sector institutions. Yes, sir. We are very strong supporters of this very fact. We want level playing field. Please have a level playing field for all type of institutions, irrespective of their ownership. If you want to differentiate the institutions, let the differentiator be the academic output, let the differentiator be the research output. Only then probably we may differentiate the institutions. Let us not differentiate the institutions in terms of the, who owns the institution. But if you want to have this homogeneity, then sir, my humble submission is, then this level playing field would entail all the objectives which are enshrined upon these various institutions. They all must abide by the same set of rules, regulations, and the expectations of different bodies which govern, which draw conclusions, and which judge the performance of the higher education system. Only then probably we all will be at the level playing field. Yes, system has to question itself. System can't remain the same. System has to change. And incidentally, fortunately or unfortunately, one of the positive fallout of Corona is that it has enabled, it has given the room for technology to bring people, whether we like it or not. Technology has made us, or rather forced us, towards having online systems, and even very traditional minded institutions, the traditional universities and colleges, they are switching over. And incidentally, the best part is the switch has been much more smoother and much more easier and much more faster than it was expected. Had it happened 15 years ago, probably we wouldn't have even imagined. We would have been heading towards a 0-year session. But thank God today we are not having these kinds of impediments. Technology has to be a part of our system. And for this purpose, it is the sensitivity and the understanding of the technology that this system so beautifully builds in. Let us hope that each of the subsystems, which comprise of not only the polity, which comprises of not only the funding institutions, which not only comprises of other pressure groups. Yes, pressure groups which influence the functioning, what is to be taught and how it is to be taught, who is to teach and how one has to teach. All these have to unite their thinking. All of them have to bring their, say, entire mindset, which is in harmony with the national education policy. Our agenda has to be national. Our agenda has to be India driven. Our agenda has to have Bharatiyata into it. China has realized it about 20 years ago. And the way China is working, indeed, we must appreciate their strategy for building excellence into higher education. They have built islands of excellence. Some of the universities which they have built, they match with the very best universities in the world. Second, a very important thing that they have done is that they have leveraged upon their diaspora. The diaspora, which is there in other countries, they have leveraged them, they have given them a space within their own existing system, and diaspora has really given back lots of inputs to the Chinese institutions. India has the similar rich diaspora. Within the national education policy, we have to integrate this diaspora as well. You see, the existing mindset, the existing system, the existing way in which the knowledge is being created, the research issues, the type of research training which our boys and girls are having, the way in which they talk about, say, theory building. I think so. These are the things we all have to learn from other countries as well. So this part has to be built into our system. The mindset has to change now, and we all have to build such bridges and connections. So this, when we are able to achieve this, these individual subsystems will probably integrate. Choice-based credit system, credit-based system, when it was implemented initially, you know, we all thought what is going to happen. But then you see, it is a very good system to have GPA. We all know there are a lot of advantages of having grade point assessment. But then at the same time, when we have to admit the boys and girls in our colleges, we admit them on the basis of percentage. And we make the merit list to the second decimal place. So the issue is, when we have things like this, where we admit students on the basis of merit, which is measured in the second decimal place, what will GPA do? And whenever we make the merit list, these GPAs have to be again converted into the percentage. And in some of the situations, we found the students were scoring 98.5%. Now, this is almost next to impossible. So if we have a national system in which we will be able to integrate these grades, integrate the percentages, so that we have the homogeneity of admitting people, I think so the system will have better output. Second important thing which we need to take into account is that we should not ignore the qualitative aspect of assessment. Incidentally, the system has been based on mistrust. When I and you were selected as assistant professors or lecturers, at that time, there was 100% weightage of only and only interview. There was nothing like API. But today we know the proportion of interview has reduced to maybe less than 10%. If we have to admit students into any colleges in America, if the professor is convinced that the student has potential, and if there is no, the percentage marks is less, the professor can admit that student into the university. But we have the system of preparing merit lists. I think so. All these will be the operational things. All these will be the operational things which we all will have to sort out. And this cannot happen in piecemeal. This needs very comprehensive thinking. This needs a lot of, say, discussion. This needs a lot of debate. And only then probably we will be able to build a more unified system. We have got, say, different types of ownerships of institutions. We have different types of rules and regulations for the institutions. If we want to win the Olympics, then we cannot have a race between people who have got different levels of physical fitness. It has to be between equals. So if ultimately the education system has to integrate, our subsystems, our subparts, they have to integrate. So national education policy debate presently confines only to the academicians. Professor Bhallaji, my earnest request to you would be that please invite some other stakeholders as well. We have industry, we have academia, we have employers, we have alumni, we have teachers, we have students, and we also need to invite the politicians into this from across different say platforms. Only when they all understand and they all make a resolve that yes, we have to achieve a goal which is committed to excellence, we all will be able to achieve the goals of new education policy. This is what is the message which I wanted to give. That yes, features are okay, features are good, features are well understood, features are well debated, features are well documented now. So the point is then how? We all know where to go, but now the question is how to go. So we all have to think, and in a very cool and a homogeneous, in a very cool and a harmonious atmosphere, we have to see how this can be done. Probably only then the real fruits of the education policy will be reaped. Thank God the first step is taken. Thank God we have made up our mind. Thank God we all have started understanding what is to be done. But then all we need to think about is how it has to be done. And for this purpose, probably the government departments, probably the regulators, and everybody will have to change their mindsets as well. So with this, I once again am extremely, extremely thankful to you all for giving me this opportunity to share what I thought. Maybe, you see, probably the views are different, but this is what I felt, that yes, we can do it. But then the point is, we all have to really think about how we have to do it. So I'm thankful to you once again for giving me this opportunity. And I wish that this debate continues. This debate of diverse viewpoints continues. And as a result of this debate, we all develop an understanding. This debate is not to pick about differences. This debate is to mitigate the differences and come up with a better understanding so that we all can ultimately build excellence into the colleges and universities in which I and you teach. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for like your wonderful ideas, and like you spoke about Indian education services. I think that's a great idea. And then like creating functional pressure groups rather than dysfunctional pressure groups. Then you talked about the role of technology in building the future of the nation in education. Then like the qualitative aspects of teaching. And thank you very much for your suggestions, sir, like for the involvement of all the stakeholders to the education for building this nation. Sir, we assure you like this conclave is just a beginning of the dialogue and the discussion. And this will be a long continuing dialogue, and we'll try to churn out what best possible could be brought out with different opinions. Thanks for being with us, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Rikrit Serai. He is Managing Director, Satluj Group of Schools. So I request Mr. Rikrit Serai to take over the dais, please. Over to Mr. Serai.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Am I
yes, absolutely
audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, great. Well, it's a pleasure to be a part of this panel talk, of course. I would like to thank everyone at PCMA, HPCMA, and also HCMA for giving me a chance to come and talk on this platform. I've learned a lot over the past 1 hour or so as well. And I'm very, very happy to be in the august presence of such eminent speakers in terms of education. Well, I am over here to talk. I am over here to talk about NEP since I'm from a schooling background. So I'll talk about the effect on NEP in terms of K-12 education. A lot of the speakers have spoken about higher education over the past 1 hour or so. So I'll focus on K-12 education and what are the after effects in terms of schooling, which we can see in terms of NEP, of course. Where I'd like to start with the fact that Indian education system as a whole hasn't changed over the last 150 years or so. As I would like to quote over here, the Indian education system in terms of schooling was initiated to create a class of intermediaries between the British and the Indians, and that's what it did. It did come up with a class of intermediaries, which we particularly now know as bureaucrats. So that was the aim of the Indian education system when it was implemented, and a lot of things haven't changed over the past 150 years or so. The NEP which we see right now is a step in the right direction. It is transformational. It is not fully incremental itself, but when we talk about it being transformational, we have to understand in what context is it transformational. It isn't transformation the fact that they are drastic steps which you'll see. It is transformation in the sense that that it has changed a lot. It is via the NEP. If you see, a lot of the policies are trying to be changed, and it's important for us to understand that in terms of schooling, what has actually changed. So one of the major effects that I see because I deal with young minds on a daily basis is that coding is made compulsory and plus is made a part of the syllabi from class 6 onwards. Now this just goes to show that look at the government, they do listen to entrepreneurs of various industries, of course, but then it's just a trend that has been picking up for the last few years. Coding. So we have taught coding to kids from class 5th to class 8th over the past 5 years or so. So I think that the government has taken cognizance of the fact that this will be a major part of our lives in the future as well. So one good change in terms of the NOP is that they have introduced coding in class 6th. Now there's a lot of confusion within the schooling fraternity as to what what has happened to classes 10 to +2. Earlier, if you see, then there was a system called 10 to +2. Now it's 5 + 3 + 3 + 4. So the major confusion that is being faced in terms of this number 5 is that it does not include pre-nursery. So it's basically your pre-primary. So what this has done in effect is that this might lead to the closure of a lot of formal preschools which you find running in houses. Now a lot of the franchise chains in terms of education will get affected in this sense. So I think it's important to understand the effect that it will have on the education industry as a whole itself. But one good aspect is that if you see, it's 5 + 3 + 3 + 4 from now on. So this 4 still refers to classes 9 to 12th. What has happened via the NEP is that it is not clear as to whether the streams will be removed entirely, because then these streams have been in the picture for decades now. But it has given students the option to choose from various subjects that they like. So if you see in this case, liberal arts as a trend has been picking up in India, but currently with the NEP now it's become mainstream. And also if you see beyond this +4, so if you go on to higher education, though I'm not an expert in higher education as well, I am seeing that there are a lot of liberal art courses that have been introduced via the NEP itself. Now, one controversial topic in terms of the NEP was the mother tongue, and the three language formula, which led to an uproar in terms of various avenues, particularly in states where Hindi was not the mother tongue, of course. So what has happened over here is one thing simple. Just give me a second. I think my screen is gone. Yes. So what has happened over here is that it's important to understand this aspect, that there will be a three language formula in terms of schooling, which will be till class 5 itself, which will include the mother tongue of the various states that the kids come from, but which will include Hindi and which will include English as well. And now the confusion is about the mother tongue. So will that in this case be Sanskrit, or will it be some other language? So like, these are things which are not fully clear via the policy which has been passed, but then I'm sure that a few things will be made clear over the next few weeks as well. One very important aspect that we have to look at is the gross enrollment ratio. Now the aim in terms of the gross enrollment ratio is 50% within the next 15 years. That is by the year 2035, 50% in terms of GER, which is by no means an easy task. Now, what does this mean? This roughly means that we have to open a university, a new university every week in India. And roughly this means that we have to open around 50 schools every week in India if we want to bring back around 2 CR kids into education. This is not an easy task, because like one school means at least one principal, 50 schools means at least 50 principals. It means staff of around anywhere between, let's say, like 1,000 to 2,000. It means various other 4th class employees as well. So there aren't enough trained faculty in India at this point of time, and that's the bane of our education system, that there aren't enough trained, qualified educators to take up this role. So the GER can be a bone of contention, and then we have to be clear about how we want to proceed in terms of the GER. So it's a lofty aim, I feel. Apart from this, there are multiple entry and exit points even after class 10th itself. So your board examinations, which are the first board examinations which are in class 10th, there will be entry and exit points as well, and that's something that I think the Indian government has taken from various other nations in the world. This is widely followed in the Western world, of course, and all of the grades will be stored in a locker, which is, in this case, which will be called just a locker. One major aspect that I'm seeing over here, and which is very, very good, I feel, is that the education spent in terms of education will be increased from 4.6 to 6% of our GDP, and that's a very high amount. So initially 4.6% of our GDP was around $14 billion, and 6% would be around 20%, $20 billion or so plus. Now, this might seem to be a very large amount, but if you look at this in context of other countries, you will see that this is very, very small. Now, if you compare this to the spend in terms of education of the UK, with a population of around 60 million or so, you would see that the spend on education over there is roughly around $87 billion, which is around 10% of the GDP. If you look at other countries as well, if you look at Singapore is 2.8%. If you look at Japan is 3.5%. If you look at China is 4.1%. So we have a high spend in terms of education, but the difficulty that we're facing in terms of this spend is the money being spent on the right things? So if we're spending around $14 billion in terms of education, where is that money going? Is it being spent in terms of the right academic policies? Is it being spent in terms of the right pedagogies in terms of education? Not even a single rupee of that is being given to the private industry which runs schools. Now, out of the 185 million students who are studying in schools in India, 69 million of them, which is roughly half, are studying in private schools. So this just goes to show that in terms of K-12 education, the private school is one of the saving graces, but what is the support that we get in terms of running our institution beyond the current regulatory framework? So I feel that in terms of the so I feel that to make the education industry succeed in India and to make sure that students get the best education is important for the private schools to get the required support that they should in terms of the government. But I don't think they are. So the regulatory framework needs to be devised in such a way that they, that there's less red tapeism. Now we run 13 schools in India, based in North India itself. So from the perspective of management of school, I can particularly say in this case that running a private education group in India isn't as easy as it seems. So I think that there are a lot of areas which we can focus on in terms of running private institutions, and plus there should be support in terms of running a bit more beyond the concessional land that is given to them. Apart from this, there are a lot of points, of course, which I wish to share, but then most of these points have been shared by the speakers who have spoken prior to me itself. The midday meals are going to be changed to the breakfast plus the midday meals, which is a wonderful step. But in terms of the financial outlay of the NEP, I think that we might have to relook this, because if we're looking at a GER of 50%, and if we're looking to open at least 50 schools every week, I think that the GDP spend on education should be around 10 to 12%. And let's match what the Western world is doing. India isn't far behind in this case, as a speaker also said prior to me, that most of the Nobel laureates are of Indian origin, though they aren't particularly based in India. So why do Indians want to settle abroad? It's because of the regulatory framework, it's because of the lack of opportunities. So I hope that the NEP creates a new wave of opportunities in terms of jobs. I hope it encourages entrepreneurs to open enterprises, because the backbone of the country is the SMEs. And on top of that, I hope it does give a lot of impetus to open schools, because if the industry isn't involved in terms of opening schools, then it's virtually impossible to achieve this aim of around 50 schools a week. So private players should be given like impetus to open more and more schools, and to focus on education in India, and to make sure that we grow the right way as well. So once more, thank you for having me on this platform. I learned a lot as well, and I hope what I shared will be of use in the future.
Very nice.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mr. Kriti. Thanks for sparing your appreciate raising your concerns and this national education policy, like maybe with regard to the gross enrollment ratio, or maybe with regard to the financial outlay, or maybe like how the private school education that could be brought at par with the various support system which is being given to the other. I think like a lot of deliberations will happen in the future, and certainly a few things will come out where like we'll have some new insights. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to have more interaction with you in the future also. Because we have a time constraint. Thank you, sir. Now, since we have a time constraint, now I'll request as a president, Dr. Ashwini Bhallaji, to finally say give his remarks, because Dr. Ashwini Bhalla, he has been onto the various platforms for discussing national education policies. He had been debating over with people, those who have those who have some other opinion on this education policy. So I'll request Dr. Ashwini Bhalla, President PCMA, to please take over the dais and give his opinion and conclude the second day of the conclave, please. Over to you, sir.
Before I request Dr. Ajay Sharma to conclude, I will just give the remarks of all the speakers which has been deliberating on this issue. And various things has been said by our honorable speakers, Dr. A.K. Bakshi, Dr. Akhil, Dr. Tajinder, Shri Rikrit Sarai, and Dr. Dharam Singh Sandhu. When I look at this education policy, I look at it from a different point of view. I don't say that this is going to have a structural change. I will not comment on that. My comment is this document, which is stated as National Education Policy 2020, this has a clear vision for our youth. And that vision was unveiled by our Honorable Prime Minister on 15th of August 2020 also. And that vision is self-reliant India. And what is self-reliance? Self-reliance is the ability and willingness to do things and make decisions by yourself. So our Prime Minister not only want to make India as Atmanirbhar, but he want to make each and every individual as Atmanirbhar. We have looked in this pandemic situation when we were all locked in our houses. This COVID-19 has gathered us from all the spheres. Everybody was in a very fixed manner. They were not, much of the population was not able to meet their only basic needs. It means, I remember the rule of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Many pandemic situations were arise during that period also. But Maharaja Ranjit Singh and his total regulators and total company and all the persons who were involved into that, they handled in a very nice manner. They opened everything there for their public, and nobody was allowed to remain as hungry or without food, not to allow to sleep anybody without food in that period also. So it means something need to be done so that people can be made self-reliant. Our youth can be made self-reliant. So when I look at from the higher education point of view, because my field of is higher education, but one thing before moving to that, I want to comment on many people are raising eyebrows on the language issue. Particularly the people from the left wing are crying that Hindi is going to be made compulsory, local language is going to be made compulsory. My dear friends, this central government has been given a mandate by the people of India. They are not sitting by the mercy of any person and ruling the nation. They have been given a mandate. And you read the agenda of this party which is ruling this country, their manifesto speaks all about this. It means the people has given the mandate to implement the language policy in this country. It is their right to have their education in the local language or in the national language. It is their choice. Though three language formula has been implemented because we have a diversity of languages in our country. And in Punjab also, when you move out, there are certain areas after 10 kilometers, the language change. So it is the right of the people. If the mandate has been given by a people, who are you to question about this? Okay, for the sake of questioning, you may do anything, but this government has been given a mandate to implement the language policy as per the desires of the people. And when the people desire, this is a democratic country, nobody can stop it. Secondly, what this policy speaks wrongs about it. I am addressing so many conferences and workshops and attending so many conferences and workshops, listening so many peoples. They're all raising questions, making hue and cry. What has been happened? What has been done by the government? This is a blunder. They are ruling out everything from the earlier policies. If we are not in a position to get anything from the earlier policies, there is a need to change. And that change is the requirement of the day. Secondly, this policy has accepted so many challenges. They have accepted so many deficiencies in the education system. And this policy has recognized that world is changing very fast and we have to change accordingly. And with the advent of big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, our all unskilled laborers are going to be replaced by the machine. Can you afford so much unemployment when all these things will be replaced by the machine? How your workers will go, how they will meet their basic requirements if you do not care about that? So data science, computer science, mathematics, areas of social sciences which are related with solving our social issues are the need of the hour, which must be given a focus. And this policy has given a focus on that. What is the wrong if we are talking about quality universities and colleges? Being a part of the Punjab University committees and the Department of Higher Education, Government of Punjab, we have inspected so many institutions in the Punjab, testing their quality and verifying what they are doing actually in practice. There are number of B.Ed colleges in Punjab which are just a fake. No student is going there, but they have admission of 300, 400, 500 people. Students are not coming in the institutions. Teachers are not coming in the institution. What kind of quality we are producing? There is one institution in Punjab, private institution, 1500 students are admitted and not even a single student visit to that college, and that college is granting degrees. Can we afford such kind of educational institutions? If this education policy is going to have a check on that to improve the quality of universities and colleges, what is wrong into that? We need skillful people along with the values. If skillful people with the values can be improved by this education policy, what is the wrong in it? This policy is focusing on identified skills and values of Indian traditions, which we are learning from our ancestors. We forget about it. Our youth is directionless. When they pass out from the educational institution, go on the roads, they don't know what path they have to adopt. And if they select one path, they don't have the confidence to move ahead. So I think if we are talking about a large number of multidisciplinary universities and colleges focused on certain kind of skills, and the colleges with 3,000 or more students, and vanishing all these institutions which are just fake, not providing any kind of education, just become the shops, what is wrong in it? We have to develop the institutions like Takshila, Nalanda, and Vikramshila. We have to develop research incentive universities focusing on teaching. We are facing so many issues. Dr. Ajay is sitting there. While as an affiliated colleges of Punjab University, we cannot do so many things. Our hands are absolutely tightened. If you want to implement some kind of courses, if you want to design some innovative programs, that is not allowed to do in that particular institution because we are affiliated to particular university and there is a total bureaucratic system and so many bottlenecks they are there. So if we are going to grant some autonomy to these institutions to develop their own courses and develop innovative programs so that the skill sets can be developed in the students along with the values, what is wrong in it? So there is a lot of time period by which these changes will be made. And as in the yesterday also, Dr. Ajay said that this is a policy document only. For implementation, we have to plan a broad outlook. We have to go miles before we implement it. So why are you making hue and cry now on the political agenda of a particular party? I think this is not fair on the part of, I have heard so many educational peoples. Right from yesterday, even from the last week also, I am encountered with so many educational people. They are all welcoming this education policy. Who are opposing it? The people who are inclined with some political parties. Just there, Dr. Tajinder Sharma said to me that we must have the divergent views of the stakeholders. We must invite industries. I will request Dr. Ajay Sharma, let's make a program for industry institute interface to discuss the new national education policy. But I am totally opposed to invite the politicians on these forums because they will just speak their own languages, which is in their interest. They will not speak in the interest of the students and other stakeholders. So a lot has been said that Grok's enrollment ratio will be improved. I will not dwell upon that. The most important aspect of this national education policy is the integrated higher education system. We have so many systems because education is in the concurrent list. States are speaking their own language. national level, central government is speaking their own language, UGC is speaking differently, All India Council of Technical Education is speaking differently. There is no cohesiveness in the approach. So if we are going to have the integrated higher education system, by integrating humanities and arts with STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and management. Even Prime Minister spoke about it in the national address. What is wrong in it? If we are going to offer multiple entries and multiple exit system, our wards are going to Canada, US, UK, Australia, and they work there. They demand work visa from them, that they should be allowed 6 to 8 hours for working, so that they can earn while they learn. What is bad in it? If we are going to have this system, it means the approach in the minds of the government is that when we allow the people to have multiple exit system, if I have done first year of the BCom, but I got a job because I have to feed my family, the circumstances is such, what is bad in it? So now the present system, there is so much bottleneck. If a person do BCom 1 from Guru Nanak Dev University, they cannot be shifted in the Punjab University because so much deficiencies of the subjects will be imposed on that. So if we are going to have academic bank of credits, what is bad in it? I know I and Ajay and all these people who are sitting there, they were involved in implementing the choice-based credit system in the Punjab University, Chandigarh. Everything was framed on what issues we fight it out. English has not been given a proper space. Economics has not been given a proper space. We fight it out. Okay, we come to a conclusion, but after that, so much politics, we don't allow to implement the choice-based credit system. Whether our students do not deserve to study the various multidisciplinary aspects of the education, why a BSc student do not have a right to study the music, why do not have the right to study the arts and culture? I think we should think about it. Kindly do not refrain from our students, do not refrain the future of this country to study the different aspects of this society and different aspects of the knowledge domain. I think we must think about it. What this policy says, that says that we must have the focus on the research and innovations. Our all educational institutions just work from 9 to 2. Can't we start startups in our innovations, in our educational institutions? Cannot we start some incubation centers? Dr. Ajay was working in SD College, Chandigarh, and he started so many programs. Lot many people has got employment about it. Whether all educational institutions and the students studying in these all institutions do not deserve to get employable. So I think technology development centers for frontiers of the research, industry, academic institution, which is a missing gap. If this policy is focusing on that, why there is a pain in the stomach of some people, whether they don't want that our educational youth should be employed. So we have to think about it, and India must be developed as a global study center. There was a time people used to come here to study, but now lot many population of this country is going abroad to study. I think we must have the shame on it, and we must ponder upon all these issues. And if this education policy, the document of 65 pages speaks about it, and we are just saying it will not be able to implement, how the government will secure 6% of the GDP as an expenditure? How this language policy will be implemented? My dear friends, this government has a true leadership spirit. This government has a mandate to implement it. If they can take 6 years to devise this policy, and it is for the first time in the history of this country, that the right from the people from village panchayat, I was involved as a nodal officer for that, right from the people from the nodal village panchayat to the assembly and parliament, all stakeholders were discussed, educational institutions were discussed, parents were also allowed to participate in it, panchayat members, sarpanch, MLAs, divisional commissioners, all organs of the democracy were allowed to participate in forming this policy, and this is for the first time in the history. If we are now talking about Higher Education Commission with the coordinated and integrated efforts with various verticals like National Education Regulatory Council, National Accreditation Council, Higher Education Grants Council, General Education Council, and converting all UGC, All India Council of Technical Education, ICAR, NCT, NCVT as professional standard setting bodies. What is wrong with it? Their function is not going to be over. Nothing is going to be finished. They will be allowed a different task, but they will work as a cohesiveness. Secondly, this policy also speaks a lot about curbing the commercialization of the education. Though there is a private sector, but same regulations will be implemented of the private sector also. But the approach and vision and the sincerity of efforts from all stakeholders is needed to implement it. And thirdly, the next important thing is optimal learning environment and support system. This policy talks about appropriate curriculum. Our curriculum, what we are teaching, which has been outdated. No revision of the syllabus even after 10 years in many universities and colleges. Even our BCom syllabuses are not 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Engaging pedagogy and continuous formative assessment. Now we are in a lockdown situation. We are not able to conduct our examinations. A few days back, I have a consultation and discussion with my one of our friend, Dr. Parveen Gill, who is teaching in the Humber College, Toronto. I asked her, Madam, how your examination system is there? How you run your university? They say, I am the course coordinator. I will develop my own course. I will conduct my own all classes with the help of my team. But then I say, whether the university conduct the examination and declare that, they say, how dare can they? When I am the master of my course, I have designed this course, I have delivered to the students, I have the right to conduct the examination and declare the results of the students and convey to the university to grant the certificates. If this policy is talking about such kind of autonomy to the teacher, why there is a pain in the stomach of some people, I fail to understand. So I think autonomy to innovate on matters of curriculum and pedagogy, choice-based credit system with the revised framework for instilling innovations and flexibility, and institutional development plan for all educational institutions, that how they will move out for the engagement of socio-economically disadvantaged people. This is the beauty of this policy. And everything, everywhere you read the 65 pages, at least 10 pages focus on motivated and energized faculty. The core center of the total policy is the teacher, and it has been promised that they will be providing basic infrastructure, and student teacher ratio will not be very high, freedom to the faculty, but if somebody do not perform, accountability will be also fixed, and outstanding and enthusiastic institutional leaders that cultivate innovations will be encouraged. There is a concept of reimagining vocational education system, so catalyzing quality academic research in all fields through a new national research foundation. This has been stated clearly in this policy. I fail to understand why the people are criticizing it. This is the purpose of Punjab Commerce and Management Education Association and all our stakeholders to please reach out to the each and every individual and encourage the youth. I always suggest to my students, I'm daily posting the draft of the education policy to my students. Please read about it. Those people who are just opposing it, they don't want that Indian population should be able to study and employable because they need their voting agenda. They want to make you just voter, not an educational and educated citizens. So I am very thankful to all the people who have spoken here yesterday also and today also. This has become a very, very fruitful discussion, and I hope we are also learning from all of you. Akhil Mishra ji was in hospital activities from the last 15 days. In spite of that, he was not well. Even then, he participated in and shared his deliberations. Dr. A.K. Mishra ji, A.K. Bakshi ji is very, very busy personality. He spoke about it. So Ritvik Roy, who is leading to the many successful schools, is a very busy personality. In spite of the busy schedule, he visited here. I could see Dr. J.K. Gulati ji, who is always in our function and very good listener too also. So with these remarks, I thank you very much. This discussion will continue. We are not going to stop it. Whether education for meaningful life, whether national policy of education or other issues of the education, Punjab Commerce and Management Association with our friends, Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management, Shri SCD Government College Ludhiana, Haryana Commerce and Management Association, Himachal Pradesh Commerce and Management Association, we are going to start a movement regarding this, and we will not let the people walk in just to destroy the education system, but we will move to the greater path. Thank you very much. Now I request our honorable friend also, Dr. Ajay Sharma ji, who has just joined 15 or 30 minutes back, to make concluding remarks and present the vote of thanks on behalf of all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. It is great discussions, actually. I could not join earlier, but I was connected to Facebook Live also, trying to learn a lot. Over the period of 2 days, we have certainly enlightened over the various issues. And it is indeed very important to learn different perspectives from different persons. What Ricket were talking about the school educations, or what Tajinder sir were talking about the stakeholder perception, there were different angles. And always Dr. A.K. Bakshi is one of the best speaker in the higher education. We have been blessed with his presence always. It was indeed a greatly the suggestion given by Dr. Bhalla to have interactive session industry on this issue. We will like to have. कल भी हमारी ये बात हुई थी कि जब तक हम इंडस्ट्री के साथ जुड़ नहीं पाएंगे तो जो पॉलिसी का जॉब ओरिएंटेशन का इशू है या कुरिकुलम को इंडस्ट्री की जॉब प्रोफाइल के साथ जोड़ने का इशू है, उसको हम एड्रेस नहीं कर पाएंगे. देखिए, आप ये मान के चलें कि पॉलिसी आई है और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की फाइन ट्यूनिंग अभी होनी है और बहुत कुछ होगा. जैसे आज कई मेरे बीएड के दोस्त जो बीएड कॉलेज में प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, वो कह रहे थे कि हमारा तो 100-200 की स्ट्रेंथ होती है, हम 3000 तक कैसे आ पाएंगे. एक दो मैनेजमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट वालों ने भी कहा कि हम तो 300-350 की स्ट्रेंथ के साथ चलते हैं. देयर आर नंबर ऑफ इश्यूज. लेकिन आप जो फीलिंग है उसकी ये सोचें कि गवर्नमेंट इज थिंकिंग ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी अप्रोच. तो किसका कैसे इंटरेस्ट वॉच करना है और कैसे बच्चों का इंस्टीट्यूशन करना है, अब इसके ऊपर काफ़ी काम होने वाला है और इन डिस्कशन से बहुत कुछ निकल रहा है. कल भी हम इसी तरह बैठेंगे और इसके ऊपर और डेलिब्रेशन करेंगे. लेकिन आज क्योंकि समय काफ़ी हो गया है, आई विल लाइक टू थैंक ऑल ऑफ यू. जो फार ऑफ प्लेसेस से मैं देख रहा था, कर्नाटका से भी लोग हैं, साउथ इंडिया से भी लोग हैं और नॉर्थ इंडिया से तो है ही हैं, जो इतने समय से कल भी और आज भी हमसे जुड़े रहे हैं. हम उन सब के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवादी हैं और आई होप कल भी हम सब ज्वाइन करेंगे और इसको कंक्लूड करने की तरफ कोशिश करेंगे. एंड आई विल अगेन प्रपोज थैंक फॉर द PCMA फ्रॉम हिमाचल कॉमर्स मैनेजमेंट एसोसिएशन, हरियाणा कॉमर्स एसोसिएशन, SCD गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज, and all the team members who are behind the show managing everything. Thanks a lot for your great contribution. We will meet again and discuss on and deliberate on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for your concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Dr. Bhalla, please, can we conclude the meeting?
Thank you everyone, and we will meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to have the Vice Chancellor of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, Dr. I think
Mr. Mahesh Verma.
Dr. Mahesh Verma and so many other people who will join on our board. And I think tomorrow the conclusions will be very good. And I will request Dr. Ajay Sharma, the whole discussion will be concluded by you tomorrow, sir, and you will be having 20-25 minutes for all these things. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rohit Sachdeva, our Joint Secretary for technical part. And thank you, Dr. B.B. Singla. Thank you, Dr. Akhil Mishra ji, for lots of efforts from Varanasi, and we हम महामना को हमारा नमन, आपके विश्वविद्यालय को हमारा नमन. So, we got energy from you, because the real education takes place in the Banaras Hindu University, because the approach with which this university was started, still they are instilling values in it. So thank you so much. We will meet.
Thank you to you so much, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. We will wind it up now.